All right, y'all. Thanks for everyone for again showing up today. It's the beginning of September, so we're in a new season. You see, we got a bunch of people. Hi, Lucy. I see that you just popped on.
Hi, Grace. Hi, everybody.
So today we're going to we're going to review chapter 3, which I was just talking to Carlotta about, and it's called Joao's Autism. And I love that because it's so easy for us to get lost in like, oh, what does autism look like? And we kind of tend to like put like labels in a container, and like everyone autism is the same, and it's not true. Like we're all different. Every single one of us are different. We're all like snowflakes, and we have different fingerprints. And same thing with autism. I think it's true. Like we tend to like make like cookie cutters out of like say autism. And I know I work with families that have 2 autistic children, and they're completely opposites. They're completely different. One likes the pressure, one doesn't like the pressure. There's just a lot of differences in the way that they travel the world, in the way that they experience their world. So even though like autism is a great label, in some ways it's also limiting in other ways. So I think I'll just start with like one paragraph that just popped out for me, and then like we'll just take turns. And like if there's anything that was in this chapter that pops out for you, you know, do the same thing. Like if you feel called to share something or just wants to be shared. Like Carlotta and I were just talking even before we recorded. It was like, oh my God, this stuff is good. Make sure we bring it back because it's so good. But yeah, I just love the way that like, I guess what I'm going to say is it's really important for us to remember that everyone that's labeled with autism is not the same, and that we need to really pay attention to who they are and who we are, because we all have different attributes, we all have different traits and different beliefs, and we're all, even though we're connected and we're one on the, you know, on the oneness, we're also very different. So we're a unique combination. So I really enjoyed I guess I'll go where it called out for me to underline. So she writes, how do you connect to higher beings? Which I feel like this is really important for all of us, because they have a natural way to connect with higher beings, because that's just how they're wired, and they're not as programmed as the rest of us are, which helps them. They don't even have to set intentions, they're already there, which makes a lot of sense. You know, that they're higher vibration and they're connected to everything and they know it, they're in oneness. But I like this, Dr. Andrea, so he writes to Dr. Andrea, we can connect with higher beings. As for me, it is not a very complex process, for if demanded, desire takes over me, and mentally I call upon masters, archangels, and angels. Mm-hmm. All these are energy consciousness, which I love that, energy consciousness, vibrating at higher levels than us as human beings. We all have a power and ability to connect and communicate with higher beings, but we have to allow ourselves. Most people that I observe don't have faith or do not believe in higher beings, and therefore allowance does not present itself. As children, we move around dimensions and tune in and out with ease. But then with programming, we shut down. So I kind of want to start with that, because that's what Carlotta and I were just talking about, is that the first step is that we have to realize that we are programmed. And a lot of people don't know that they're programmed, because then you're taking responsibility that you realize that you're programmed and conditioned, versus like that things just happen, you know? So I would just love to put it out to anyone that, you know, that has something to share around that. And you don't have to be called on, you could just pop on.
Well, the programming seems to be everywhere. And I mean, someone was just talking the other day about, you know, the billboards and all that, but, you know, our own televisions, they call it programming. I mean, it's so literal. It's in our faces all the time. So, but I just wasn't aware of it. You know, sometimes I'm just shocked by how programmed I am, but, you know, it's not in my consciousness. But now I'm seeing it more. So, but yeah, programming.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I mean, I remember when I didn't know I was programmed, and I know television is like television, like lies, you know, just a bunch of, but it is programming for sure. But once you become aware that you're programmed in it, there are moments where you forget again, right? We forget and then we remember. And these kids are not, they're just not programmed, because a lot of people just really don't even give them a lot of credit, right? I mean, they're talking over them. They're talking to you more than they're talking to your son, right? That's kind of the way it is.
I was guilty of that too.
And I was too. So it's okay, because we didn't know any better at the time, you know. But once you become aware, then it's like, oh, and you know, we may forget for a moment, and then it's like, hey, you know, I know you hear me, and I know you're totally you know, like cognitive of what I'm sharing. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe it's, you know, just to trust the rhythm and like give them time, you know, just like when I just asked Derek how his college is going, and you like know his rhythm, you know, or like his communication style. So that was cool. And he was able to sign yes, that he's enjoying college.
Oh, he comes in the door just full of energy and smiles. And I know I was on campus today for an RPM session, Zoom session. And yeah, I could just feel the energy of the campus was so invigorating and accepting. Yeah, it was just incredible. So I know that's why he's coming home so happy, and he's so accepted there and more understood than he's ever been. Yeah.
I would say that's probably a reflection of you too, you know, that you're more accepting. And thinking about like Cody Lee of America's Got Talent now, just the way, like, you know, just the way that people are embracing him now, and like how different it was the very first audition where people were like, and I know part of it is like acting, and for sure, but still, like with these kids is like, they're not faking anything, you know. And I think that's the difference, is other people could fake it, we fake it, you know, but the kids don't fake it. So, you know, everyone's chanting his name, you know, there's so much
Cody.
Cody, right? They're chanting, and he's like, and like he's the only one that doesn't present as nervous or you know, his nerves aren't coming. It was just fascinating, and seeing his connection with his mom. Same thing with you and Rick. It's like just so powerful what's happening.
Yeah, the mother is incredible. I think. I mean, she just really supports him in just what he needs, and then she backs off and allows him to receive the praise that he so deserves.
It's beautiful. Exactly.
Watch that relationship.
Yeah. I watch it over and over again. I'm one of those like $1 million hit, like those million hits. It's like probably 100 times I've done it. It's like, oh, I'm part of like 100 of those million hits. But you know, I know no doubt the guy is going to win, just because everybody, the judges were just so taken by him, and tears and losing composure. It's just like, it's just amazing to watch how far we're coming.
Yeah, what has happened to Simon? I mean, he's not the person he used to be at all.
Softy, right, he's a super softy now.
No, his heart has grown.
I know, right? Like the Grinch. Yeah. It's beautiful to watch. I know, I'm just touched because he was like in love, the way he was just like sitting like that, just like so much love. You know, it was just like.
And then he was kind of in prayer position.
You're right, he was. Right.
Like, this is Simon Cowell? Who is this?
Right, right. And then Sean Hayes as well was like
Yeah.
just so moved, and he was tearing up, and that was just, it says so much.
It seemed very genuine from the judges. It seemed to me.
I'm pretty sure it's pretty genuine.
Mhm.
It's just like our tears just coming, you know, it's like, why am I watching it like 100 times and crying almost every time? So
I just think it's so authentic. He's just such an authentic soul.
yeah.
The way he comes across, and then, and to see his mannerisms and sit down at the piano and start playing and singing, it's like, whoa. I mean, there's such a, with something, it's like autism. There's something, you know, we can't judge a book by its cover, you know. There's
Mhm.
something so much deeper.
Yeah, so much deeper. All right. Wondering if anybody else wants to pop in right now and share what's on your mind. Yeah, go for it, Carlotta.
So it's beautiful when she said he's so genuine and authentic. And I think that the general public is now being able to witness things unlike we have before on a scale where these producers, like on the panel, the judge panel, they've seen it all and they've been doing it for years and years. But what they're really craving is that authenticity and that the witnessing of someone overcoming something and revealing the gifts that are within these books, the wisdom and the gifts that are within these books of souls. And again, the programming, when you spoke about earlier, that has been written here in this book, I just want you to know, like when you said I didn't know how much I was programmed, Brenda, that's because we are generations deep born into this programming, right? So the society and socialism at this point has gotten so far into the programming that we don't know that it's not natural to be born, stamped with a social security number, and shuffled into systems, whether it's education systems, medical systems, social caste systems, right? So the biggest gifts that we can offer one another is to close our eyes and to see one another as, again, souls with a very specific, beautiful offering that we can each shine and rise together when we're not being held by certain paradigms that we were programmed into, and to hold space for one another. And whenever there's a kind of an automatic pilot response that comes into play, whether it's a self-sabotaging thought, I'm not good enough, people don't understand me, whatever it is, this is too hard, I don't have the tools to get through this. In truth, each and every one of us are creators, and we are here to allow one another the grace. It all comes down to grace and gratitude. If we can, when we have a moment that's challenged with interpersonal, and we can just remember to remove our momentary story, and can get into neutral ground and really be in a receiving mode of what is really being presented here, as a mother to a beautiful, son that is, growing in leaps and bounds now that he's in college, in any way, shape, or form, and recognize that we've been programmed. Recognize that, oh my gosh, I have the mom hat on when I could have the best friend hat on, or I could have the cheerleader hat on. So give yourself that grace, and don't necessarily, take on that climbing the mountain by yourself, and realize you're really truly supported. And we're all, like he's saying in this book, we're equal. We all have something very, very, very much equal, and we are all multidimensional. I was like him, where because they're so pure, and as a child, certain things happened in my lifetime where I went in and out of body very quickly and easily, and learned fortified that in a way to where going deep into source and connecting to, like he is saying, that higher vibration, higher frequency, which it's just really, it's unconditional love. And when we can present one another with this unconditional love at any time, especially when we feel challenged, the programming is stripped, and we've left that behind. But you're right, it's everywhere, it's rampant, and it's deep, it's generations deep. So if we can give ourselves a moment to go, you know what, hold on a second, and really go, let's step out of the momentary story that my mind might be wanting to project at this time, and just come into a place where I'm like, okay, what if I just was in a receiving mode and said, what needs to happen in this now, to where I can be inspired, feel like I'm inspiring, and I can be more neutral, so I can facilitate the challenge, the ones that are feeling challenged. And that means yourself as well, right? So whenever we're feeling challenged, we can take a step back and go, hold on a second, how am I looking at this? Is there another way for me to approach this, to where I'm being kinder to myself, more self-loving, right?
I love that. Which, goes back to like this book is really not about autism itself. It's really about our multidimensional, our truth, and where we are and where we can go. Like I just wrote on my Facebook, actually, one of his quotes, which is, he's pretty much saying that, well, what did I write? I pulled it up from here. Just that he already knows like where he's going, like, because he can already see the future, and so like he knows right now, like it's basically he's really showing us the power of God within. And I think that's because we're not conditioned to remember that here. We're just, right, we're giving our power away constantly. And so like, and seeing these kids, and I love what Brenda said too about the authenticity, and that what you're saying, Carlotta, is that we're thirsty for authenticity. It's true, because I don't see it very much, or I see it with a few people for sure, but it's not out there as much as I would like to see it. I try to be as authentic as I could be, but I'm sure it comes and goes, right? But I feel like you're right about why everyone is so taken back and just like so in love with this kid, but it's really the energy that he's holding, and he's just demonstrating like what it looks like to be authentic, It's just an energy. I think we just get caught up in the name. Hold on, I want to actually, Erin, I actually had to mute you because you're on your phone. So I just unmuted you if you want to say something.
Oh, hey, everybody. I just was interested in the conversation about conditioning. I call it conditioning. I think you guys were calling it programming. And that's just so widespread, I would assume, particularly in autism. And also the notion of, while it's great what's happening with Cody on this show, I think one of the unfortunate things that can turn into a positive for sure is that a lot of times we as a society need quote unquote social proof before we start following someone or agreeing to someone. It's something that's very common on social media. So that's kind of the same thing with what's like, if he wasn't on the show, nobody would even know about him. And while I think the show is great and it's showing a lot of exposure and a lot more understanding, it also probably saddens me a little bit that it has to get down to that for there to be these kinds of conversations to take place.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. But, I think there's a reason why he's popping up now, right? I mean, like I kind of see it as divine timing and everything. But yeah, like I think that's why we were all like the audition. I think all our minds were blown because we just didn't expect him to just like show up the way he is, right?
Right.
And I find that some people are like kind of judging, like, oh, well, he's not as good as like the first time. But I'm thinking, well, I think it's just our own, our own experience, because the first time our minds were blown, but now it's kind of like, oh, what's he going to bring? And I think we tend to do that. But I have a friend who's just like kind of a little hard, and I was like, well, I mean, last night was pretty stellar. I mean, he was on, and obviously a lot of people were moved and touched, and I was too. But I see how so easy the ego already comes in, and like, says it's peace or whatever. It's like, but yeah, I mean, I see there's so many perspectives to definitely go, and not everyone is going to be a musician, and not everyone's going to have that gift. So it's going to take a lot of digging and discovering to find out, what your kid or, other kids' gifts are, even our gift. Because again, I feel like this book is really about the rest of us, just like remembering, who we truly are, our innate, creator, as Carlotta said, we're here to create, but we got so conditioned or programmed that we tend to kind of go in default.
Totally. Autopilot.
Anybody else? Lucy, you want to pop on?
I have a pop on. I didn't know even where to start. It's like it's the life, as he's saying, it's like the programming, and sometimes I just get so so caught up in that programming, probably, it's just this, and then I just get so hard on myself, because it's not Kaibi's thing, it's my thing. The way how I react, and then as in the book it's mentioned regarding the programming, and it's like, it's to me, it's always get just to that point, as he's saying, the working on ourselves, it's just that every moment. So it would happen, it's like kind of comes and goes, and then I get rejuvenated. I'm like, okay. And then I just get like, oh my God, I'm just tired. I'm just tired of myself, probably. It's just like, it's, and as a mom, you just kind of have to, and it's great when we, when we talk about all this, but then you just comes to that daily, daily life, and it's like, okay, how to handle it, how to work on yourself, what to release, and then I react, and I'm like, oh, it's my reaction. It's not even Kaivi's, he's just, I don't know if he even knows. He probably knows, I don't know. So it's kind of, again, I just get caught up in all the amazing things we talk in one way. So that's where I am every moment. So thank you, ladies, but it just always helps, to have you and to kind of be able to talk with somebody about that, because I see it, just even half an hour, before we start, somebody said, I feel they were talking about a child, and like, oh, what's wrong with him? He cannot speak. And it's just like this whole, I still have to learn how not to get triggered. I want to just scare him, like, there's nothing wrong with him. Anyway, so it's just this whole work on myself constantly. So
Well, I just want to acknowledge you. Are you still talking? I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes, the path is not easy, especially when we're on a different path. you know, but I, like when I look at you and Kaibian, I just think from my perspective, like, you're so lucky. I mean, he's only 6 years old, you know. Even Joao, his mom, I think he was like 14 or something like that before she even knew he had a voice. Same thing with so many of these kids. It was so much later in life. And like, that's what Brenda was saying as well. Like, it was like Derek was, I think he was like 22, right? 22 or 23, when she finally caught on and was like, but it was her inner work for sure. It was the way that she shifted. It started really unpeeling the onion and hanging around other people that are like minds, you know. And you're in an amazing circle right now of people that are walking this path with you, and you're taking the class that starts on Tuesday, and it's going to be amazing. But you're in an amazing space. Just be compassionate for yourself, and you know that you're doing everything that you can. And yeah, the triggers that, only the triggers that, like when people trigger you, that's your work, you know. And that we all have triggers, so you're not alone. We all do. We're all human. And I think you're totally on track. I mean, you're an amazing place, Lucy.
Can I say something to that?
Yeah.
Dealing with triggers. Like you said, we all have triggers. We're built that way for a reason, though. So if we can embrace the poetry and the plan, the triggers are there for us to realize that there is something that we can navigate of what we do want as a personal response. And that goes, the triggering mechanism in the physiological of the body goes into your, as your adrenal system. And there's a company called Wish Garden that's an herbal remedy company, and they have amazing products that are natural. They're even so natural that they can work with other like prescribed, and they have one for adrenal support. And I've had mothers and families that were on antidepressants and on many, many different types, years and years of prescribed medicines that have weaned themselves off of them, and they're strictly on this herbal remedies that do not have any side effects whatsoever. But basically, when we know we're in a reactive state, we can empower ourselves by having something like this. And it comes in a liquid spray, so it's literally bioavailable. It'll be effective in like 15 minutes. So
if you want, you can, you see the chat box. If you want, you can actually put that information in the chat box.
Okay, great. Yeah, and another thing just quickly is when we were talking about the young man that's on America's Got Talent, I wanted to touch on, again, there's a bigger picture here. Yes, he's authentic, and yes, we're learning that this is real. These children are more than what we've ever given them credit for. But for this particular soul, what I love so much about him is that he has found a passion that he likes as an expression that he's able to do. But on top of that, bigger than that to me is that he's doing one thing that most of us never do as human beings. And that is he's having the courage to live his dream. He is living his dream. And yes, he's supported, but we can support one another to do that, to live your dream. And that I love about him more than anything, right? And each one of us have something that we dream about, and to put that as a priority. And that might be to be a unconditional support for others. That could be the dream, or to be more self-loving. But that's what I love about him, is that he is living his dream. And I think if we could just decide on what it is that we dream and take one step closer to a day, the world would be a happier place.
I love that. It's true. Like I got chills when you just living his dream. And it's funny because I feel also that his mom is also, you know, she's a nurturer. She's here to support him. And I feel like she's also living, you know, her dream in a way too. It's not, even though it's maybe his dream and she's been supporting, but like you could tell like she's healing at some very deep levels. The way that people are seeing her son for the first time ever, probably, even though they've kind of been, they don't live too far from where I live. So I want to eventually go down and listen to him play, because they do a lot of like gigs around here. So that would be a lot of fun. But I also see the connection that she nurtures his dream, and I think that's so important too. I'm gonna pop just want to make sure, Erin, I keep like muting and unmuting you, so I'm just letting you know. So I don't know.
No worries, no worries. You have control.
Or you could do *6, but I didn't know if you knew to do *6. And I don't know if you're driving, so that's why I did.
No, I'm not this time, so it's all good.
Okay, so if you want to pop on *6, all right?
Okay.
And I think *6 is also popping off. Okay. Okay, anybody else want to pop on? Or if not, you know, there's the rest of the chapter, which is not a long chapter. Apparently, I thought it was a great chapter because I underlined a whole lot of stuff in here. Oh, I like this one. I think this is an important one, unless someone wants to pop on first. I guess not. Okay. And Carlotta, make sure if you can add that information for that solution that you're talking about there.
Yeah, I'm not seeing where to do that at the moment, but
yeah, it has like a little box on the bottom and it says chat.
Yeah,
like
I saw it. Sorry. Yeah. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so she writes, how did you learn English? I love this. This is very powerful. And then he writes, Dear Dr. Andrea, at the moment my days are spent killing time for one cannot go anywhere, as can be understood from my other letter. There is nowhere for me to go where at least something interesting can be done. My mother is struggling and my father doesn't care much about my well-being, which is up to my mother to keep us going, which is a pretty typical story. A lot of moms end up taking a lot of the caring over, and can't be easy. And I know some of you know this very well. But getting back to the topic, I spend my days at home watching TV, either with my grandmother or with my father, when my mother goes to work. When she is at home and she has time, then I can go right and go out. I like to be with my mother, but we have to learn to be apart. When we can be alone, then I can set off to accomplish my mission, which is far beyond this small country. When it comes to telling you how I learned English, there isn't much to say. I simply tune into my English I. So like I am, you know. As you know, there are multiple realities, and as we all have the ability to tune into the different I version, as demanded from my personal need and urge, I have practiced tuning into my English version of self to be able to communicate internationally, but this ability has to be further perfected for other instances. I just was like in awe when I read that. Because we can all do that. I know that we can. It's just a level of, do we believe that we can? And like maybe this is the first time we actually read that. And what does that mean to us? And I think of this movie called Lucy, which I don't know, has anyone seen that movie, Lucy? Where as your consciousness raises, that you become more aware of your I am and your power. And that's always been like, wow, I just want to raise my vibration so that I can be more in tune and more attuned and more available. But I mean, it just shows you the power that he has, and a lot of these autistic, I call them autistic mystics, have in demonstrating. But for me, it's more of like, oh, okay, like I know it's not just a gift that you have. It's a gift that we all have. We're all inherit, you know, we all have this ability, you know, and I guess it's just starting to believe that we have that capacity, and then to you know, maybe calling to help, as he was saying earlier, calling in the master, calling in, or people that, you know, we're surrounding in amazing consciousness in this group, you know. So I would love to hear other perspectives around that. Anyone?
Well, Derek and I read this chapter together. And so I asked him several questions. One pertained to Lucy, if he had anything to tell Lucy. And the second question was, do you tap into, as we discussed, while tapping into many different dimensions and a lot of information, and also his overwhelmment of his physical body by all the information that they're downloading all the time. And that was kind of new information for me, thinking in that terms of seizures. But I asked Derek on the letterboard, you know, can you tap into other languages? Because he's always listened. You come in and the computer's on French or Spanish or Russian, whatever. And I'm just thinking, well, he's bored, you know, so he's listened to other languages. And he said, yes, of course. And I said, how many? He said, 21. And I'm like, what? 21. But, you know, I know that's the truth, because they're just absorbing everything, and they are just really taking in, and that's just who they are. That's the I. Because I had to read that paragraph a couple times for the I. I'm like, and that's just their essence. That's who they are. So, and they don't have all these preconceived notions like us of our limitations. They're not limited in any way. So why not, right? So I'm like, okay, that's some new information. And as far as, you know, since I mentioned it, Derek referred me to page 32 for Lucy. And I know we haven't quite got there yet, but that was another thing that I underlined because I thought it was so powerful for myself also. But it says, one of the things that I want to add is that you can invoke help from other planets and galaxies too. The method is the same. All you have to do is ask for help with clear and heartfelt intention. That's all we've been talking about, our intention, right? And then he just says, beings or consciousness of light and love, I ask you to come to me and in the presence of divine love, assist me in overcoming this challenge. And when, especially at the ending, this challenge, because we're always seeing it as a challenge. Okay, this day is a challenge. This IEP is a challenge. This doctor's appointment, this dentist appointment is a challenge, you know, this sensory sensitivity is a challenge. So that's what Derek said. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I love that he's also adding to the field for us. It's really powerful. Makes me want to watch the replay for myself because there's a lot of good stuff coming through. So thank you, Derek. I love that you're participating with us. Anybody else?
I just want to mention that it's interesting that we talk about different languages, because it was a couple of days ago, in some point Kaiwi was watching something too, and as you were saying, Brenda, it was like sometimes he watches in Chinese, sometimes in Russian, sometimes in French, and I asked him, when I was trying to like project stuff on him, of course, my stuff, I was like, Kaiwi, do you want me to change it? He said, no. He can say no very well. That's the one thing. So interesting. Yeah, he can. I'm like, okay. you know, I release myself. I'm not still in that vibration where I can really feel or see what he's saying to me. So, you know, or we don't have still the, as Brenda, you were mentioning, you have the communication tools. I still get lots of times last what he wants to say to me. But I know he understands me. But it's maybe me, how I'm not, somehow I still have these blockages to open up to that. And that's why I'm here, probably. So, but yeah, it's very interesting, the languages, and I learning so much, as he's saying in the book too, you know, not putting so much pressure on that speech, yeah, that it will come, if it will come in different ways, perhaps, so, in different languages. So it's interesting. So when people ask me, oh, does Kaibi speak? Because my first language is Czech. I said, does he speak Czech? And I said, yes. Now I start saying yes. Even of course, I never heard him speaking Czech actually to me, but I just say, oh, yes, he does. So that's kind of interesting that we are talking about that, because it's, again, naturally when I'm saying, I already saying what he's probably saying to me. So just want to share that.
May I say something really quickly? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
of course.
Sorry. I wanted permission before I spoke. The beautiful thing about communication is that it doesn't have to be verbal, right? And although, because they can hear us, they understand tones, right? So when we are, whatever our base emotion is, whether it's joy, frustration, impatience, you know, confusion, that is communicated loud and clear. So for us to be able to become more self-aware, so like Lucy keeps saying, it's my work, it's my work. Some of the simplest things we can do is just become more self-aware of where our energy is and how we are feeling, because that is being felt, right? And so, and also to allow our actions, to our nonverbal communication, our body language, to support what it is we do want to communicate is so important. In other words, to be able to have a soft body rather than a rigid, like, you know, make sure, you know what I mean? There are certain, I studied nonverbal communications, and there's a plethora of physical attributes and ways that we can communicate that we are curious, that we are supportive, you know, that we are open and receiving, and that we're willing to hear however it is that they can share with us, learn however it is they can share with us, by taking literally a physical stance that is more open, and, you know, handing them a show me, or, you know what I mean, like, or, you know, and offering something to them, a tool to them, whether it's a happy face sticker or a sad face sticker, or, you know, something that they can simply recognize as an emotion, and we can start, you know, moving towards the middle towards that, and just to remember that we are programmed to speak first. That's our dependent communication. But our nonverbal, our physical, really does tell them a lot. And they may feel less shut down if we can come to the table a little more open and just, you know, curious, to let them know, loving and curious. And again, hold their hand, sit next to them, make eye contact, and just a loving gaze, right? Yeah, that goes a long way.
Yeah, I love the curiosity part too. I feel like that's life too. The more curious that we are, there's a lot to uncover. You know, when we get into that space of like, oh, like what else is there? Or the children, even, you know, I think that's what got me to this space, is like my curiosity of like what is possible and who are they underneath this label, and then the, you know, new set of kids just show up. It's like, really? You know, it's just, curiosity is huge. I'll just say that. That's been a big part of my path. Anybody want to share anything like from any part of the chapter or anything that's kind of popping up in your consciousness?
What about his statement about, I have already lived in Atlantis? That's come up before.
Yeah. You know, he said, I've had some conversations with him, and he is the soul doctor. That's what he's choosing to, you know, that he already knows his incarnation here, his mission, as he calls it. It's like, yeah, my mission here is to be a soul doctor. And it's a process, because right now he's still healing, is really what he's really open about, his toxicity and how painful it is, and that process of healing. And anyway, I love that. But he has told me, like, going to the ocean, that I should actually invoke, he says, invoke the goddess of the seas, because then you're actually, you know, you're not just, again, going in default, you're actually having an active role. And I love it, because when I do go to the ocean, I actually do, it's like, oh, you know, I'm invoking the goddess of the seas. And even in this chapter, he talks about, as you know, the sea is very soothing, and salt water is full of minerals and other nutrients. Other reasons for my reference to the sea is that we are essentially water, and hydration plays a key role in the healing process. If we invoke the goddess of the seas, and he's saying it again, the sea will be even more beneficial, because we can connect and become one. And vitality and health increases substantially. So that's a huge awareness right there. And he's literally told me that as well, you know, that I should invoke the goddess of the seas. And that's even makes it more clear that it just becomes one. We're not like separate from the sea. And I've been feeling a calling to go into the ocean more and more lately, even though I'm not kind of picky of which ocean to go into, as Erin knows. But I feel like like Santa Barbara for me is a good ocean to go. I would love to go to Hawaii, because you guys, I've been to Hawaii, and there's something about Hawaii. The ocean is very, very pristine, and it feels much more cleaner. So I'm glad that I have actually called in a bunch of you guys into my field. But yeah, I definitely have noticed my connection to source when I'm in the ocean too is very much more deep and clear. So that's what I have to offer. Anyone else?
I would even take it a little further and say you have the ability to not only call forth and evoke the goddess of the sea, but embody it. Like, claim your own goddess within and celebrate it as union with that intention to being connected. Therefore, you put yourself in that field of knowledge that he's speaking at. You know, you are literally, you know, stepping into the realm and saying, I am a divine feminine, and I am, you know, taking part as the goddess of the sea. So, you know, again, rather than being powerless, be powerful, be an action of this, and celebrate it. Let it, when you feel the waves carry you and, you know, bring your body up and move you and soothe you, realize that this is You know, this is how we're made. This is what we're built of, right? And you have that. You are a living goddess, and just to become one with it, rather than to feel separated. You know, you are that, and claim that. It's a powerful thing, for sure. And I love that he's talking about the minerals and the salt water, but he also talks about how toxic his body is. And I'm very curious, as for what I do for a living, I'm as an integrative nutritional coach. I'm very curious to understand the context to what he means by that, because energy itself, as he has spoken a little bit further on in the book, because they are so pure, they absorb a lot of the environmental toxins that could be emotional, it could be actual physical toxins. But I am quite curious on that one with him, because I don't know what kind of he is able to have where he's at, or, you know, so it is curious to me, like, what does he need to feel or to encourage his body to be more free of toxins? Because we can all take measures for that, right? And I think that, again, what we put in is what we are made of, and we can optimize our mental clarity, our ability to focus and be less reactive, those types of things, if we understand how our body's built, right? And what it does, what it needs to thrive.
Yeah, well, he does talk about that he needs to detox his body. I know his dad, he kind of mentioned, because he observes a lot, I guess, too, as well. And, you know, like, from what I'm hearing across the board, a lot, the autistic say, like, the gut, the microbiome doesn't process the food, doesn't the way that most of ours does. There's sort of like, it just doesn't. And so that's why a lot of autistic people do actually have a lot of toxicity and pain. You know, he actually is very, very clear on the level of pain that he experiences, which he actually says that he's not in prison once, he's in prison twice. One, because of the level of pain his body endures, but also the level of, like, he's not able to do what he wants to do, you know. But I like what we were saying about Cody, you know. It was like, for him, maybe him following his dream, but maybe it's just also a sense of maybe his family is much more able to, as a unit, be able to make some things happen. And who knows? I mean, that's just my own interpretation. I don't know. You know, but it does help when, I know, like with Joel, when he has his mother, really, that's the caregiver. And if you see Cody has a full family that's completely got his back. So I think that does make a difference. But, and we're all different. I mean, we're all absolutely different. So it's hard to even say, like, what's real, what's true. But that's my feeling. Anybody else? We got about 7 minutes before we close. I love this.
I think in our journey, a big issue for us was isolation, because there was a long period of time we just wouldn't go out in the community, you know, go to school, come home, and that was it, because everything was too much overload and their elopement, and, you know, it's just like, okay, it's not worth going out. So, and then we didn't have, you know, groups were not established, and, you know, little support that you had and that type of thing. There was very little understanding. No one really wanted to talk about it. And so isolation, I mean, when I read that chapter, my heart went out to him, to not, you know, be able to leave the house and not have opportunities. I mean, have that kind of intellect and things to say and things to share, and not be able to, you know, I mean, now he has a voice, you know, on the internet and with his mom, but, you know, still, yeah, everyone needs community and friends. And wants to know, you know, what else is out there externally. So, I mean, we live that. So, I really feel for him, but, you know, things do change, and little at a time, things seem to make sense, and you find your passion or their passion and follow it, then, you know, other things more doors seem to open, and you just got to keep going through them. And sometimes, oh, the first couple times we go, this is not going to work. He doesn't like this. But then you just keep going, and all of a sudden something shifts and you're having a great time, you know. So it does change, it does get better. And but isolation is a true problem for our community. Having more things out there to do, more, you know, not support groups, but, you know, places you can go and accept it. If a child has a meltdown, or a child, you know, can't sit and they need to, you know, be pacing or rocking in church. I mean, I remember we used to go to church, and, you know, we had to move to the back pew because people were disturbed by his rocking and grabbing me and things like that. So it's a real issue. And once you just like, you know, that doesn't bother me anymore. We'll just go, and we'll be part of the group, and it'll be fine. And if they are accepting, then we'll return. If they're not, then we won't. We'll seek another opportunity. So 2 cents.
Do you feel like your acceptance has made a change? You know, the way that you accept him now, and like not worried about other people's opinions and judgments.
Oh yeah, because I was embarrassed and I was exhausted by explaining, because everybody wants to, you know, an explanation, you know. Why isn't he moving? You know, why is he just standing there? Why is he? It was constant explanation. But now it's like, I mean, things have shifted enormously in this last decade, because I think society is forced to, by the sheer numbers, and people who are experiencing it firsthand. So you know, it's frivolous a lot of times to go into a big explanation when they haven't experienced it. But now you can say, more people understand, and, you know, are more patient, and understand that that's just the way it is. That's the way they regulate their body, you know, that's very purposeful. I'm so glad he's not having a meltdown. He's just rocking back and forth because he's trying to regulate, because there's a lot of stimulation going on in this environment. And then, you know, people usually understand that now. So that's all you have to say. And they're like, hey, you're doing a good job.
I love that you can explain it like that. People can understand that.
Yeah. Oh, it makes it much easier on the parent.
Sounds like
and the dark stares, you know, the people like, you know, why is he doing that? You know, like, no, that's him. That's who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact.
Thank you for being a trailblazer for all of us. Because I know it wasn't easy at the beginning, or even in midway, and now he's like, you know, a college student and doing amazing things, like you said, like new doors are opening because you're following his dream, right? And would you say this is also your dream? Like, do you have a dream? I'm kind of curious if, you know.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I mean, my dream was never college. I mean, I didn't have that kind of high, that expectation. My dream was for happiness and quality of life, and joy, and for all of us, you know, less stress and more harmony in our life, and relationships and everything. So I had more of a general dream, but so I must say that we're living out beyond my expectations. But I try not to have expectations anymore. Just go with the flow. Thank you. Gratitude. Okay, it's a good day. Yeah, today was a good day. So.
Right on. Well, we're at the top of the hour, 7 o'clock here in California. So until next week, I love the way that we're all contributing, our perspectives into the universe, right, as creators. And any last closing words before we close off? We're good? We're good to go until next week?
Sign.
All right. Yeah. Big love to everyone. All right, y'all. We'll see you. Again, the Gifts of Autism YouTube channel. That's where you can find us. And I will copy and paste what Carlotta actually shared with us. So I'll copy and paste that. That way we have it. And yeah. So we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Love you.
Thank you.
Love you too.
Bye. Aloha.